to live on. God bless the reading and hearing of his holy word.
Thank you so much, Mel, for reading. What about the saints? No, I'm not talking about the football team. For those of you who might know me, you know that football and me, I just don't get along very well. Well, they get along, but I'm just not following professional football. However, I do know that OSU won yesterday, just for the record. So what about those saints? Some of you may say, well, I don't belong to the Roman Catholic Church. St. Paul is 2 roads down the road. Just follow county line on county line and state 3. That's correct. But we also do have saints. We do not follow the history of sanctification and all the long process. But in our church, we go more to the biblical meaning of saints. St. Paul talks about saints always in the plural. And he talks about the people who live out their faith. Who are the people in your life who are like the saints? Maybe it is grandma who took you to church when you were younger. Maybe it is your youth group leader or your deacon who we heard early on. Who are the saints? Who are the people in your life who you say, this is the person who I believe follows? Thank you, your mom. Great, great. Thank you. And I know your mom will be really humbled to hear this right now. Saints. Saints in the Bible. Saints in the Bible, whenever St. Paul talks about it, he actually talks in plural to us all, the saints of Jesus Christ. I am talking about, and I'm thinking about an incident which happened to me more than 25 years ago. I was living in South Africa at the time, working with the Methodist Church in Johannesburg. And a couple of us squeezed into a little car early on a Sunday morning to drive out into the rural area. And when I mean rural area, I mean you better do not get a flat tire, because there is literally nobody out there. No store to quickly grab in and grab some frozen food or whatever, or milk or something. Absolutely nothing. A small, tiny church. On a Sunday morning, we were nearly late. A wonderful, wonderful worship service. I remember the sermon was longer than I, as a white person, am used to. The music was much more energetic and dancing, and against you, nothing against you and your talent. And nothing against the choir, and nothing against the bar choir or you later on, Dave. But it's just a totally different experience. People dancing around the aisle, and Susan, you would love that. Yeah, no, you have experienced it. A lot of dancing and a lot of praising. And since we're on the stewardship campaign, those of you who are trustees might just like to hear that, for how they did it. They had tables up front here, just like the bell tables we had, and a certain amount was about to be collected. So the trustees sat behind the tables, and everybody was coming forward and praising and then dancing and putting the money, the bills, on the table. And the bills were bowing. It looked like a Thanksgiving feast full of bills. And the trustees were counting and counting and counting, and still not enough. And another song, and another dance, and more praising, till everybody, all the different groups, and everybody came not only once, but twice, 3 times, 4 times, till literally there was nothing left in their pockets. Another way of doing stewardship. That was impressive for me. But what was even more impressive, what happened afterwards, was not just coffee hour like we have here. And don't get me wrong, I do love my coffee hour with coffee and cookies. But they had a feast. They slaughtered whatever they had, the animal, their livelihood. Might have been a chicken, a goat, or anything else, maybe even a rabbit, whatever they had, so that we, the guests, could eat. And the fried permeated the whole church. While the other people were just giving in their money and giving in their money, you smell it on the other side. So you were hoping that the money was going to be received sooner than later because your tummy was telling you it's time to eat. And you should have seen the desserts and all the side dishes. And I know your Thanksgiving meal is going to be wonderful and absolutely, totally obsolete, but those, I still have the picture. And especially in contrast to the poverty the people were living in. There I know that they were slaughtering all the animals they had to feed us. And they watched us eat. Not only one serving, not only two helpings, but you better make sure that the bottom of your, the button of your pants were loosened because it was a really, really feast. And to turn anything down would have been an insult to the cooks. So these women, who I know sacrificed what they had to feed us, remind me of the gospel story. In the gospel background, we hear that Jesus was watching how people were putting money into the treasury. And Jesus was probably people watching. There are 13 different boxes, and depending on your status and who you are in the church, you put in your money and it makes sure that everybody sees which box and how much you put in. And then Jesus sees out of his corner this woman, the widow, who doesn't have anything because she is dependent on other people giving her, putting in all what she has. Our gospel reading says 2 copper coins, which are worth a penny. I can only imagine she probably felt really embarrassed seeing all the other rich people were there with their bills, putting it in and everybody watching. But Jesus sees her, a woman who normally is overlooked in that society. And she has given everything she had to live on. And Jesus praises her. How? How can Jesus say that the 2 coins she is giving is more worth than all the other amount? That math doesn't add up. I know I'm not very good at math. I know that. But that math still doesn't add up. And Jesus is not glorifying poverty. Jesus is not saying no thank you to all the other bills because there are bills to pay. So he is not saying this is not important. But Jesus is lifting up this woman who has literally nothing and gives everything she has. Jesus, what are you saying here? It doesn't really make any sense. How can 2 copper coins, which make up 1 penny, be more worth than all the other value, material value, which is already in all the other boxes? I don't believe that Jesus is here to tell us a math lesson. But Jesus is here to tell us what's important from our heart. And when we give from our heart, we do not necessarily think about the math. When we give from our heart, we give because we are so moved that we know what we give is for the better good. When I watch TV, and right now there are all the Christmas commercials coming in, I feel I don't have enough because all the ads are telling me that all I need is only this item or this thumb or this in order to be happy. Have you ever noticed that? Because I know when I watch the commercials, I feel bad afterwards because no wonder I feel so depressed. I don't have this and this and this product. And then when I'm listening to the news, I realize that we have a supply chain problem. And I heard people say that we might not have any Christmas. Did you hear that we might not have any Christmas? Let me tell you, we do have Christmas. We might not have all the gifts under the tree, but we will have Christmas. And here's the paradox of the generosity. The more you give, the healthier you feel. Christian Smith and Hilary Davidson just published a book which is called The Paradox of Generosity. In giving, we receive. In grasping, we lose. This is not a religious book. It is a book, a interdisciplinary study done by Notre Dame University, done on statistics after they counted thousands of Americans and interviewed. And they found out that when we give, we actually receive. That when we share, we actually happy. And if statistics is not your thing, there's actually a neurological, psychological study as well done internationally that the more you give, the happier you are. And fear and generosity are total opposite. The fear, your feeling of fear, is in your reptilian brain, which is about fight and flight, whereas the generosity is in a much more developed stage of your brain. So if you are generous, you're actually a much more developed person. And also you are happier. And who doesn't want to be happy? So in giving, we actually receive. And in giving, we change from me and my poor little me, myself, and I, to we. We are part of a group. We are all interconnected like the spaghettis on your plate. It's really difficult just to pull one out because we are all interconnected. And we are all together in this boat. We are all part of we and not only me. And in so far, the gospel story of the widow giving in 2 copper coins really reminded me of the women in South Africa who I experienced, who were saints to me. And for me, these are the saints, because in their way of living, they showed it's a way of giving. Living and giving is totally interconnected and intertwined. You have difficulties finding out what is what. So and I hope that you not only want to be healthy while you are giving, but also realize the benefits that giving might have for you. Instead of me, it is we. And instead of just thinking about poor little myself, there is no Christmas, yes, there will be. Just be open. Be open to the good news that Jesus Christ is going to be born again for us. And yes, there is enough for us. We live in abundance and not in scarcity. Amen.